Okay, we're back. But back to the movie. We'll talk about Ultraman in a minute.
Yeah. And
With Invasion of Astro Monster, these aliens called the Vortak. I think they're called the Vortak.
I can never remember the alien names.
I think they're called the Vortak. See if there's a box thing. Yeah, it is Kira Takarada. Okay. And one of the most famous female, Kumi Mizuno, in these films.
Yeah, she plays one of the aliens.
Yeah, I think this was the first time? Yeah, the first time, maybe.
Yeah.
And she's a crowd favorite.
Yeah.
Let's see, the Vortak, they go on this planet. I don't know what's there. They ask, like, King Ghidorah is starting attacking everyone. And they asked for Godzilla's help. And in return, if you give us your monsters, we'll give you a miracle drug and keep the monsters on our planet.
Right. And as we all know, with any of these Godzilla movies, oh sure, listen to the aliens. Wrong.
Aliens are always bad in these films.
Yeah.
Except in Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, that was different. That's a different story.
Yeah, that's a different story entirely. But.
Yeah. So they take the monsters, and it turns out the miracle drug is like saying, surrender now or we'll destroy your planet.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of funny. And apparently these aliens' weakness is a really high-pitched noise.
Yeah.
And they end up getting their monsters back on their side, and they repel King Ghidorah again.
Yeah. And
that's pretty much it.
Yep.
And then we have this sort of island trilogy.
Yeah, because I know the next...
Almost all these take place on islands.
Yeah. Godzilla versus the Sea Monster.
Or Ebirah, Horror of the Deep.
Yeah.
Giant lobster.
Yes.
Or Godzilla, I think it was Gojira, Monstera, Ebirah, big duel in the South Seas.
Wow, what a mouthful.
Yeah, now you know why it's this.
Yes.
And why it's Godzilla versus the Sea Monster and not Ebirah, Horror of the Deep, because no one would know what you were fucking talking about.
Yeah.
I must admit, these movies you're seeing are actually out of print, so what you're seeing is some of the only copies around.
Yeah.
Of course, this kind of copy goes for like $200. Yeah, I bought it at the right time.
Yeah.
Of course, this movie's coming out on Blu-ray soon.
Yeah. And
Section 23, I think.
I still remember this as being one of, the few Godzilla films I could get a hold of through the local library. And the first time I ever saw it, I was like, it's okay. But at the same time, I'm freely admitting, there was certain cheesiness in there that I was like, oh God, I didn't expect that. Why are they playing volleyball?
Yeah, of course, the original monster was going to be King Kong. Yeah, that's why he gets woken up by electricity.
Yeah.
And this was actually more of a fun movie.
Oh, yeah.
And it was also spoofed on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah, that's one of the films they spotlighted.
Yeah, it's pretty good, though.
Yeah, I'll admit that, certain parts of it are good, and then, like I said, it's got its corny moments, but overall,
it is very corny.
If you can get past the fact that Godzilla is fighting a giant lobster, then yes.
There was a pretty good effect scene where he's fighting a bunch of planes.
Yeah.
He actually bites one.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one. That was pretty good.
Yeah, so he beats the lobster back, and they get off the island before it explodes, and Godzilla does a fucking cannonball.
Yeah, I remember that, too.
And then we have the worst Godzilla suit in history.
One of the worst.
No, the worst.
Son
of Godzilla.
Yeah.
We had Son of Kong, we got Son of Godzilla.
Yeah.
Which it isn't really, I don't really think it's really Godzilla's son. I think it's just something he fathered.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they might be the same sort of species.
Yeah. Godzilla. Yeah, well, it couldn't have been called, adopted son of Godzilla by random chance by way of finding...
Yeah, getting off topic. There's a couple of monsters in here. Kamakiras, which are, or giant mantis.
Yeah,
they have different names for these damn monsters. Like it's Minya in Manila.
Yeah.
Kumanga and Spiga.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why it does that. But I forgot to mention Kumi Mizuno was in Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster as well.
Ha.
But we're past that right now.
Yeah. Anyway. And you mentioned the suit being really cringe.
Oh, it's really bad. It's really, really bad. You can probably see it right there.
Yeah, I definitely see it.
Yeah, well, there's not much to tell in this one. A team of scientists is trying to create a weather machine to help like, establish gardens and vegetables and patches in desert. If they can control the environment, they can also control the food supply.
Yeah.
And that's what he's trying to do. And the scientist, he's pretty I wouldn't say eccentric, pretty serious. And then this reporter, he comes down and like he wants to get into it, and we find out there were people on the island before. I can't remember, but you have to see the movies yourself then.
Yeah.
The experiment goes wrong, and then it ends up irradiating the place, and they come out later, and it turns out everything's been irradiated, like the giant mantis have grown huge.
Yeah.
And the egg got irradiated, and Godzilla comes by, and he's like, and he, I guess, sort of becomes a surrogate father.
Yeah.
It could be. It's never really explicitly said, so we really don't care.
Yeah.
And, well, he fathers it, he trains it.
Yeah, as best as he can.
And then they end up having a hibernation on the island when they finish the experiment and they start snowing.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the end of that little thing. And then we jump forward into one of the biggest monster movies of all time.
I Destroy All Monsters.
Yeah. Of course, these movies are the Destroy All Monsters is kind of a hard movie to come across in terms of a copy, because AWE Films is no longer business, and the Media Blasters Blu-ray is no longer in print.
And me, I was fortunate enough to grab my copy when a video store over in Inglewood was going out of business, and they were selling them for dirt cheap. So it's like, VHS copy, I'll take it.
Yeah. Of course, this is the IEP, American International Pictures, which it's just the videotape I saw as well, and it's pretty good. I mean, but there is a lot of monster. There isn't as much monster action until like the end.
Yeah.
And where all these monsters gang up to beat the crap out of King Ghidorah.
Yeah.
And they kill him. They actually kill him.
They drop kick him. They freaking...
Yeah, a lot of guest monsters from the series.
It seemed to be in a way, it was kind of a little bit of an advertising thing of, hey, here's all these other guys.
But it was also meant to be the last Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
For like all their series, but Atragon, Rodan, the King Kong's Gorosaurus, Godzilla himself.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't stop them from doing anything.
And I mean, heck, at the end, Ghidorah gets the crap beat out of him, and then Minya frickin' fires a smoke ring around him and drops it.
Chokes it.
Yeah,
that's it. Okay, we're back.
Yeah,
it works.
Anyway,
then they. What do you say about this one, really? It's not that bad. It's not as bad.
It's not a terrible Godzilla film, but overall, personally, I view it as one of the weaker ones. Because of the fact that it's got, Godzilla in it, and it's got his son in it, and there's a monster fight in it. However, it all just seems to be based around some kid's dreams, and it's all about, a kid standing up for himself.
And we really don't know if Godzilla exists in movies or it's something else. Kind of like in Gamera the Super Monster, where he's a movie star.
Yeah, it's.
I think this takes place in kids' fantasy, really.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's not much happens because it doesn't really work.
As a standalone film, it's all right. As a Godzilla film,
It's the only G-rated movie. It's the only G-rated Godzilla film.
Huh?
Yeah, it says rated G on the front.
Yeah.
And then we have, well, it got better. We have Godzilla vs. Hedorah.
Yeah. This one goes back to more of what we want to see.
Godzilla fighting monsters. And this is where the monsters kind of started getting interesting.
Yeah.
But this is also an environmental film.
Yeah.
And I think this actually came out the same time as Gamera vs. Zigra.
Ah.
I think Godzilla came out first, like maybe a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was kind of a war back then.
Yeah.
And
They were bouncing films back.
Yeah,
and
Hedorah
forth.
is kind of an interesting monster because it was made from the pollution.
Yeah, it's a small
mutation.
monster,
And then it starts making its own pollution. It feeds
Yeah.
off, then starts making it. It's although it's kind of trippy though.
Yeah,
It's kind of trippy.
I remember hearing about several scenes
which-
that are bizarre.
Although what's really weird is that there's a theme to this song called "Save the Earth."
Yeah.
There's an English dub of it, but I've never been able to find it.
Hmm.
It's not on either audio tracks of this.
Hmm.
Yeah. And he fights a smog monster, beats it. And we have the infamous "what the crap" moment.
Oh, wait, which one was that?
Something you don't see every day.
Ah.
Where he flies, where Godzilla actually flies with his atomic breath.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
And then we had Godzilla vs. Gigan, which is kind of adult.
Yeah, I mean, I
Godzilla bleeds.
remember seeing this as a kid, and while it was one of my favorites at the same time, it's like, holy crap muffins!
It was actually also released as Godzilla on Monster Island, which doesn't make any sense.
No, because
That's like saying calling it Indiana Jones in Shanghai.
Yeah.
Well, Godzilla fights Gigan and Ghidorah,
Yeah.
and Gigan's a cyborg chicken,
Yeah, cyber chicken with hooks and a buzzsaw,
and
and
his only ally is Anguirus in this one.
yeah. And this is also the one where they talk.
Well, trying to. Well, actually, in the original Japanese dub, there's speech bubbles, like comic books, and that's kind of a theme of this movie because the guy's a comic book artist.
Yeah, and
That would have worked better, but
yeah,
then
that would have made more sense. But the speech, the dub is so.
Well, I understand why, because seeing they try to Americanize a lot of these films a little bit.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong.
Well, that's a small edit compared to what they usually do.
Yeah, I know, but still, it's one of those things that.
Well, we wouldn't have been able to read into
film.
speech bubbles.
It still sticks out in the film though because it's like, huh? It would have helped if at some point there was, I don't recall, was there at any point where they mentioned, hey, we've got this device that allows us to hear what the monsters are saying?
No, but they have little tape reels that actually make the monsters follow commands,
Ah.
and Godzilla understands it, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I'm not entirely sure, but Godzilla beats them back
Yeah, as usual.
as usual.
If I remember correctly, no, wait, it's later on the Gigan's head gets blown up, but
That doesn't happen. Gigan is never really defeated. And then we have Godzilla vs. Megalon, which is actually a crowd favorite.
oh yeah, it's
We got Gigan, Megalon, Godzilla, and Jet Jaguar,
yes.
who was originally going to be the star of this film. And he kind of is.
Yeah.
You see him the most. But he's kind of a combination. The reason it's actually drawn by a sixth grader. Yeah, there was a contest at Toho, and they liked it because at the time Mazinger and Mazinger Z and Ultraman then the series of Ultraman were really getting popular, so they decided to choose
yeah,
it.
and when I saw Jet Jaguar the first time, the first thing that came to my mind was Ultraman. It's like,
Yeah.
oh god, what is Ultraman doing?
But he's got like the color scheme of like Mazinger.
Yeah.
Not the color scheme, but kind of like the design.
Yeah.
Looks a little bit.
And, you know, it's pretty...
Yeah.
It's got an odd
But it's a
storyline.
fun ride though.
Oh, yeah,
it's really
it's-
silly though.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those where you don't take it seriously.
And it was filmed in a month. Yeah, this
Explains
was
why it's so...
this was a quick film.
Yep.
Yeah, but he beats him back,
Yeah.
and
Squash the cockroach, yes.
yeah, it's pretty good. And then we get into the real stuff, where Godzilla was a bit more serious again.
Yes.
Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla and Terror of Mechagodzilla, or Mechagodzilla's counterattack.
Yeah, I remember seeing both of these back to back so many times, and if I remember correctly, one of them at one point was called
Godzilla vs. the Cosmic Monster,
Yes,
Godzilla vs.
yeah.
the Bionic Monster. Those were the German
yeah.
tales, but that's not getting into that kind of
Although
thing.
the funny thing is I actually the VHS copy I have of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla was called Godzilla vs. Cosmic Monster. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
I think that was one of the early VHS tapes released.
Yeah.
Although there is a problem with Terror of Mechagodzilla. Because when it was released on VHS, they accidentally got Terror of Godzilla,
Oops.
which was a butcher. They toned it down to make it G. Like anything offensive, they took out,
Oh no.
and it was reduced down to like it went from 82 minutes to 72 minutes, I think.
Ugh.
So you can probably view this copy as sort of a director's cut.
Yeah.
And but this was kind of a big thing. Godzilla kind of fights himself with a lot more weapons, but
Yeah. I mean,
ultimately he destroys him twice.
yeah. I mean, it started out with what we assumed at the time was Godzilla running around destroying things, and then you find out, oh,
Anguirus knew better.
yeah. Anguirus fights him and frickin' breaks off part of his skin. It's like,
Oh, it's a
What?
Terminator.
yeah.
Terminator before Terminator.
Yeah.
And although you can kind of tell it's not Godzilla due to the roar and the fire breath.
Yeah, but, you know.
To the people, they don't know.
Yeah.
And this kind of double feature kind of ended the Showa era.
Ah.
Yeah.
And Titanosaurus was never seen again after Terror.
Although people kind of like Titanosaurus
Yeah.
later on, though. And then Godzilla was silent for about 10 years.
Yeah.
And then Tomoyo Tanaka decided to bring it back.
Yeah. And it
With,
was essentially a reboot.
A reboot, yeah. But a sequel reboot,
Yeah.
which was very hard to do.
But still in 1985.
Yeah. The sock puppet, as I call it. With Raymond Burr.
Again.
Yeah. And I kind of think the American version is a little superior. A little bit. Because at the end, when Godzilla falls in the volcano, that's it.
Yeah.
I like Raymond Burr's little speech at the end. Not to mention, if it wasn't for Raymond Burr, this movie would have been horrible in America.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's because Raymond Burr is a hell of an actor.
Hey, you said, you guys either change this or I leave.
Yeah.
Although, Godzilla 1985 is one of the hardest films to find.
Yeah, I mean,
Because of, the Cold War stuff.
yeah.
Although in Japan they did release a Blu-ray of Return of Godzilla, the original.
You can find like the VHS real easy. However, if you find
They're
it,
expensive.
Yeah, unless of course you get lucky at a garage sale or something like that.
Yeah.
Garage sale, Goodwill, yeah.
Yeah, although you don't really need to see it.
Right.
It's
But-
very bare bones Godzilla.
Yeah, but at the same time, it does also, if I remember correctly, isn't this the same one that also had some other monsters attacking for some?
Oh yeah, the sea lice.
Yes.
That doesn't really matter. Apparently, those were like some sort of parasites that were on Godzilla.
Yeah, it was something that made you stop and go, okay, it's not